From one handsome guy to another one, right? Yeah, okay. Well, maybe not. Adam was blessed, that's for sure, and blessed with a lot of talent, a lot of integrity too. Let's get right back to it, everybody, and give you the update on the piracy. Donald Trump and Venezuela. You might have heard about this one, but I want to make sure I reiterate it in case you missed this. You want to get this information. You can find this over at the Gardner Goldsmith News Notes for the Genetically Superior, and of course, retweeted inside my X if you want to search around there. Megatron's got this over at Megatron_Ron, and it is this breaking. The U.S. is confiscating Venezuela's gold from the UK bank. It's actually from yesterday. All of Venezuela's gold reserves, totaling 31 tons, which are held at the Bank of England, will be transferred to the United States per El Nacional. The value amounts to $4 billion. Yes, that's awesome. Stand and deliver, your money or your life. Yep, that's $4 billion, resulting in the loss of Venezuelan sovereignty over the resources. Because, it's all about the illegality of things, because Donald Trump claimed that Maduro was involved with drugs, even though he released the former president of Honduras, who had been convicted on smuggling drugs at the same time. But yeah, let's talk about economics. Here's some dark news, everybody. Bar chart's got this one. Batten down the hatches, everybody. We're sliding into this section of the show. Get ready. U.S. interest payments are now 3.3% of gross domestic product, the highest level in history. Okay, so yeah. So again, much like the Roman Empire, the United States Empire is so vast, so huge, that both externally and internally, the payments to the favored people who help the people in Washington stay in Washington are so massive, they have to have a central bank. They have to borrow from the central bank. Interest payments on the borrowing now represent almost 3.5% of the gross domestic product of all of the slaves who have to pay the taxes. And there aren't sufficient slaves to pay the taxes, so they foist that debt onto future tax slaves. Now, we're going to bounce back and forth over now to fuel prices. CNN, gas is 30% more expensive than this time last year. Diesel is up 48%, and jet fuel is up 73%. But guess what Donald Trump said today? Fuel prices are down. Yeah, he said fuel prices are down. No, they're not down, Donald. They're not down.
They're still up massively from this time a year ago. Look at this. Gas is 30% more expensive than this time last summer. Diesel.
There you go. Yes, I know. Who can really trust CNN necessarily? But also, let's go back into the first item in our economics category. Former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has this. Years of foreign wars and Congress spending too much money is why we are in this position. And they are still waging more war, which requires more money. More money, more money, more money. Just wait until Social Security goes bankrupt in 2032. The national debt is well past $50 trillion and interest is over $2 trillion. And the Kobisi letters got it, and she reposted it. U.S. interest expense on the national debt hit a record $1.4 trillion over the last 12 months. Since 2020, the cost of servicing U.S. public debt has nearly tripled. Wow. Yeah, the devil take your stereo, your record collection. And we've got this back to fuel prices. The U.S. diesel crack spread has shattered historical records, surpassing $100 a barrel for the first time in history. The measure is the premium of U.S. ultra-low sulfur diesel, ULSD, futures over West Texas Intermediate crude oil futures, and has reached an all-time high of $102.20 a barrel. So we're talking about the post-refining versus the crude. So we're at a spread of $102.20 per barrel after refining due to the acute global supply disruptions. Before the outbreak of the Iran war, just suddenly outbreak, normal, Dustin Hoffman's trying to fight it. Normal historical diesel crack spreads typically average between $15 and $25 a barrel. Yeah. So Bob McNally, the founder of Rapidan Energy Group and former White House energy advisor, cited direct hits to physical refining infrastructure in Russia as also playing a key role. Exactly. They don't have the refining capacity, which is why it's so expensive, beyond just the lack of the physical material to go into the refineries.
Conflict spreading. It was just a matter of time for the Houthis to get involved. So now, while we have some good days, in terms of getting some more oil out of Hormuz, we're getting some transits up to, on a given day, maybe 9 million barrels a day, maybe 7, but then that's offset by a loss from Yanbu. It's also spread, Carl, to Russia. We were saying that the Ukrainians are going to take down so much refining capacity in Russia that the world's second largest diesel exporter, Russia, after the United States, was going to have to reduce and now ban its exports. And so
And that's exactly what they did. They banned their exports of diesel. And Donald Trump is like the ultimate chaos factor. He just keeps going and going and going to disrupt everybody's lives. It's just stunning. It's a crazy, crazy situation. Let me know if you think he's a chaos actor and he's doing it intentionally, like he knows. I don't know. You let me know. Put your comments in the Rumble chat. And back to the U.S. debt instruments. Here we go. Just in. U.S. 30-year Treasury yield hits 5.30% for the first time since the run-up to the global financial crisis in 2007. So we talked about this a little more. The numbers are even more solid. They're staying where they are right now. They will increase. Unless, of course, the Fed drops the rates. And this is the problem we're going to be seeing. Now, because of this, because of the U.S. 30-year Treasury yield hitting 5.3%, pending home sales, mortgages for homes, the bond rate issue is going to harm home sales even more. And it will push Trump to push the Fed to lower the Fed funds rate. And that will lead to an even bigger bust down the line, and it will push up prices before that final bust occurs. So as you can see, U.S. pending home sales plunge back near record lows in July from zero hedge. Okay, so you can see this. It's amazing. July, weak home builder sentiment and plunging housing starts. Pending home sales tumbled for the second month in a row in July, dragging sales down 2.5% year over year, the biggest annual drop since April of 2025. All four major U.S. regions experienced a decline in demand during the month. An index of pending sales in the South, the nation's biggest home selling region, decreased 2.2% to the lowest level since January 2025. Pending sales dropped 4.7% in the West. So again, if you were thinking about buying a house, you might want to wait a few months. Oh, and look, what's this? Sprinter Press is this. New report from the World Gold Council. Central banks are selling dollars and buying gold at a faster rate than ever before. Record figures. 74% of central banks predict that the share of the dollar in global reserves will decrease over the next 5 years. 89% expect, and by the way, this ties into what we covered yesterday, 89% expect an increase in their own gold reserves within the next 12 months. 45% intend to buy gold, which is the highest figure in history. Annual gold purchases over the next 4 years have reached approximately 1,000 tons, which is twice the average for the previous decade. So if you have been investing in gold, you might be thanking yourself for doing that right now. And finally, this on the economic front. Trump promised to balance the budget, says Steve Ratner. Musk projected $2 trillion in savings. This year, the deficit grew by 18%, with $200 billion of that due to refunds of his illegal tariffs. Look at that. And the deficit is projected to keep growing.